In fact, quite a lot of the books on this list have dedicated videos or have videos coming out, so be prepared to now have a watching list after this video. Welcome back to Dead Good Book Reviews and to another chatty wrap-up. Hi, it is the 1st of October when I'm filming this, and I am equipped with chocolate digestive tea. I have a big pile of books next to me that I want to talk about. And as ever, I'm going to take you through everything that I read in the month of September. I, by my calculations, read 26 books in September, which is pretty darn good. 3 more than last month. Happy about it. And we're just gonna go through it all, have a little natter, and then I'll edit into something vaguely coherent, as I always do. By the way, my shelves are looking utterly decimated at the moment because I have quite a few different TBRs happening, along with all these wrap-up books. There's just not a lot on them at the moment. I promise I haven't unhauled anything more than in my unhaul video. There's just a lot of books not on the shelves at the moment. Right, I'm going to go in almost chronological order after I've done the first 2 entries on this list, which are actually the first 11 entries. I don't know why I'm blithering so much. The first set of books I want to talk about are actually behind this map, and it is the How to Train Your Dragon series, the first 10 books in that series. And I read all of them this month, which was really good. I thought I was only going to get through a few, but actually they are very, very quick to read because they are middle grade and there's a lot of illustrations and all of that stuff. Did I enjoy them? I think so. Were they really for me? I don't think so. And I think that if you watch my vlogs kind of as I read them throughout the month, I did about 2 a week, I didn't get on with many of the characters. It just felt not what I wanted to read. The middle grade that I have read and enjoyed typically features young girls as main characters who are pretty feisty, and while there is a young girl in this series who is feisty, she's not the main character. You have to put up with Hiccup quite a lot, and the dragons are cool, but not like as cool as I want them to be. Didn't love it. Hanging on to them because they make a very good backdrop for that map, and until I can find a box that will serve that purpose, I'll probably hang on to them, but I'm not rushing out to get the last 2 books in the series. I think they are good fun. I would probably recommend them to actual middle grade readers, which I'm not, and that's all fine. So that's the first 10 books that I read this month. The other book that I just wanted to talk about very quickly, that this isn't in the order that I read it, but Animorphs 10. I read it this month. I've had quite a lot of new subscribers this month, and if you don't know, I am reading every single Animorphs book in a project that is set at the moment to take me 5 years. So I am still on track for that 5-year mark. If you want to know my thoughts on Animorphs 10, that video is up. You can go and watch it. I recap them. We have a good time. It's very good fun. Now we're on to more sort of chronological order. Other books that I read, so books, new books and rereads. I read The Memory of Souls by Jen Lyons. This is the 3rd book in the, I think I forgot the name then, the Chorus of Dragons series. I absolutely love this. I think it was my favourite of the entire trilogy so far. Trilogy? Quintet? I can't remember, but I have said it. I've done a whole video about why you should read this whole series, so if this is completely new to you, if you have no idea what this wonderful, big, epic, fantasy, complicated narrative structure awesomeness is, then you can go and watch that video. And there's a fair few other people who are starting to pick up this series now and really enjoy it, and I just think this is so worth the time to read. It didn't take me as long as I thought it would do, which for a long book is pretty nice. I feel like this series is really growing into its own sense of humour, and reading all of them, you definitely feel that development in the 3rd one, and I hope that the other books continue to progress in that direction, where it's still very like bad things happen to people and not fun, but there's a real kind of dramatic irony and observational humour. It's good fun, and I enjoyed it. I want to make a pile that I can just deal with later. After that, I read Unconquerable Sun by Kate Elliott. This is another review copy that was very kindly sent to me. I loved Unconquerable Sun. I haven't read a lot of space opera. My sci-fi reading list is growing by the day in terms of what I have read and what I want to read, but I absolutely love this. I have filmed a review for this. I think it comes out on Monday, maybe? I can't quite remember the exact dates for when that's scheduled, but suffice to say, I think this is really, really good. This is a reimagining of Alexander the Great, but it's a woman and it's also in space. And if that isn't enough to sell you, really, I don't know what will be. I love the characters, I love the different perspectives, I love the plot. It's so worth reading, and I really, really, really recommend it, and you can hear more about all of my thoughts on it in that video. Then I reread Girl in the Tower by Catherine Arden. This is the 2nd book in the Winter Night trilogy, and I haven't reread Wind with the Witch yet. It's on my list for October, but I think this is probably the strongest book in the trilogy for me. there's something about Vasya's journey in this book that just, I don't know, it's inspiring and relatable, despite the fact that I am not a young Russian girl running through the countryside rescuing other young Russian girls. The kind of quest for acceptance in this is really, really powerful, and I think also rereading it, knowing what happens in book 3, I can't 100% remember every aspect of book 3, but I remember a fair amount of the stuff that hurt me, and this hurts extra much because of that. And that's really all I can say without spoiling it, but it's just cementing how much I think this trilogy is one of my favourite series of all time. After that, I reread A Little Hatred by J. Abercrombie, followed by The Trouble with Peace. This is the first 2 books, the only books that are out in his Age of Madness series, which I don't know how many books are meant to be in it, but so far 2. And I loved them. I really enjoyed rereading them. I again have a dedicated review for them coming out at some point. Basically, if you loved his first Law series, then this is following on from that. Many years later, we have the descendants and children and older versions of the characters from those books, and the Industrial Revolution is happening. And they're so good. Joe Abercrombie's Grimdark is the only Grimdark I've ever read that I have truly enjoyed, and I think this series has really made me go, okay, no, I definitely do want to read his standalones and the Pirate series. Is there pirates? I feel like there are pirates. Yeah, I really loved it. 10 out of 10 would recommend. I reread Roar by Cora Carmack, and this surprised me by how well it stood up. This was a Fairy Loot book from a few years ago now, and it's a YA fantasy romance where there's storm magic, and the main character is called Aurora, and she's a princess, but she doesn't have storm magic, and she should because she's noble. Goes off on a quest with some storm hunters to try and get some magic. There's a horrible, horrible villain. It's really, really well done. If YA fantasy romance is your thing, and it's a very specific thing, and I have to be in the mood for it. I think I was definitely in the mood for this when I read it the first time and now. Would I still give it 5 stars, which is what I gave it when I first read it? Probably not, but I think it would still be a 4, and that's pretty impressive. I do want to read the sequel to that though. I might have to order a copy. After that, I reread Magic for Lives by Sarah Gailey. I utterly adored this the second time around. I loved it the first time. I thought it was great the second time. Magic high school in California, I think, and the main character has no magic. Her sister has magic. She's a teacher there, and she's investigating the murder of another teacher. And it's really, really well done and really good. And I think my favourite thing about it is the way it captures teenagers. And I feel like I've talked about that in vlogs and various other things, but the way that this book writes teenagers is so relatable. It just feels exactly how teenagers would react to those situations. I don't know how they did it, but they managed to write a book where that happens, but it also works, and the mystery is really good, and the reveals are great, and it's not very long, but there's a lot that happens. And yeah, I'm really glad I reread it, because I think I'd forgotten how much I enjoyed it, and now I want to read more of their books. I finished To Sleep in a Sea of Stars by Christopher Paolini this month, and it was a journey. It was epic. It was long. I got very frustrated at points, but I think overall I would say that I do not regret reading it, and I had a reasonably good time with most of the bits of it. Is that enough to say? I have filmed a review for this, as with a lot of these books, but that is not up yet as far as I'm aware. I think my overwhelming impression was there are bits of this book that I think quite a lot of different people will like, as in one person will like one thing, another person will like another thing. Therefore, because it is so long and there are so many things, there will be bits of it that you don't like. I probably enjoyed maybe 60% of it, and the other 40% I was kind of like, I don't really care about this. Is it the best sci-fi I've ever read? No, but I don't think it needed to be. You can watch the full review for my full and deep thoughts. After that, another reread, A Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martin. Still not sure how you pronounce that name. This, I read it ages ago, didn't understand it at all, kind of wrote it off as I'll get that one day, and I read it again and I got it. I properly understood what was happening, and I had a really good time, and I totally understand why people love this. Now I need to read the sequel. This is like my championing rereading book. I have grown as a reader since the first time I read this, and this was just such proof of that. This is like a fish out of water, politics, sci-fi, cultures at the edge of war kind of a story, and I really, really loved it. And I now need to read the second one, which I realised is not out till March of next year, so here's to that wait. I think it's called A Desolation Called Peace, which sounds terrifying and great. I'm picking this up off my unhaul pile, which I still have not taken anywhere or put up online or done anything with, so shame on me for that. Orphanage of Gods by Helena Coggan. I don't know why I liked this the first time I read it. I didn't remember much about it after that, and I reread it and I did not like it. It is going in the, not the bin, but you know what I mean. It's going towards the away from me. Teenagers with special powers who are like the children of gods, who have been like rounded up and kept in an orphanage, and then they get killed if they discover that they're godchildren, and some of them escape and end up being part of kind of a revolution, but they're also trying to rescue their friend. And it's a mess. It's not that it doesn't make sense, it's just that there is no world building, really. And it's not the kind of thing where it's done in the background and you're like, oh, I've learned about the orphanages through osmosis. It's just not there. That wasn't important. But the characters aren't fleshed out enough that you want it to be character driven. It was just not fun. I didn't enjoy it. And I'm happy to have it out of my life. And I don't really want to talk about it anymore. From that to more of a win, I read Hard Time by Jodie Taylor, which I think is the second book in the Time Police series. I can remember the series names, I think. It feels right. So this is a spin-off from her St. Mary's books. It's, as it sounds, it's time travel policing, but it's sort of like a spy thriller action, but with useless teenagers / young adults. I think my overwhelming impression of it was, even though some bad things happen in it, it was a really comforting read. It was just nice. You felt like you were in a safe pair of hands. You were going to read it, the plot was going to happen, and it was going to be good. And that's what I got. And I actually really appreciated it. And I would recommend her series, and I still eventually want to read her St. Mary's books because I think I'm really going to love them. I just haven't had time. After that, I've put it somewhere, but after that, I reread Once and Future by Amy Rose Capetta and Corey McCarthy. I didn't love it. Similar to Orphanage of Gods, I just don't feel like there's enough meat on the bones to make it worth reading. And there's a lot of stuff where it's really unclear why characters of the age they are, what age they are, and why they're acting the way they are. So there's a lot of like pregnancy and marriage stuff, which it isn't quite balanced right, and I don't know. I didn't love it, but I love how queer it is, and that's why I'm hanging on to it. But I've taken it off my shelves as kind of it can go live somewhere else, because it's not a book I want to recommend all the time, but I want to keep it because I think it has something in it, and I don't know what else to say on that one. After that, I read my other huge Paolini book of the month. That's Inheritance, and that's the fourth book in the Inheritance cycle. I actually mostly read this via audiobook, which I've owned for ages. I must have bought it on a whim years ago, and I really rate the audiobooks, and I really enjoyed it. The audiobook helps you get through bits that are filled with extraneous detail that you really don't need, which I noticed much more having been annoyed about it in To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. I still love this series. I still have a lot of nostalgia about the series, so it was, again, kind of more comforting to read it again than something I wanted to critique. To round off the month, I read City of Lies by Sam Hawke, followed by Hollow Empire, which I had a review copy of, and I listened to the audiobook of City of Lies, which again I bought on a whim, and I really enjoyed it. It's a really good, it has a different narrator for Joven and Kalina's perspective, so a man and a woman. And reading the audiobook was a really good way of getting back up to speed, so would recommend if you were looking for a way of recapping City of Lies. And then I read Hollow Empire, and I want to talk about the two of them together. I absolutely love this series, and I want there to be more books. I don't think there are. I think there are only two, but this book is amazing from start to finish. It's so great. Hollow Empire is similarly awesome. I've given it 5 stars. I love them both. It's like fantasy plus mystery plus court politics plus spies. It's like everything I want in the world. And I had a really good month for books that had penny drop moments of, oh, that is who is trying to kill you, for example. And these books do that really, really well. And I finished Hollow Empire yesterday, and I'm still kind of not okay about some of the aspects of it. And I just want to reread them already. And I think this and Hollow Empire together were probably my favourite reads of the entire month. 26 books total, 10 of which were How to Train Your Dragon. A lot of, alongside 10 middle grade books, a lot of very, very chunky fantasy and sci-fi this month. And a lot of really good rereads. I had a very nice reading month. I very much enjoyed pretty much everything I read. If you haven't already watched my October TBR, you can do so. I have some great stuff on that. Mostly rereads at the moment, I believe. I'm looking at it now, and yes, it is mostly rereads. I'm hoping to read a similar amount. I think I might read a little bit less, just because busyness this month is a little bit more intense than September was. Have you read any other books that you've enjoyed in September? Have you read any of these? I would love to know your thoughts on them. If you have any strong feelings or not so strong feelings, that's fine too. Comment that below. While you're down there, you can follow me on my social media if you haven't already. You can subscribe. It makes me feel loved and appreciated. That's all from me, and I will see you in the next one. There's gonna be some bloopers now. And the middle grade that I have read, this feels not in the right order somehow. Maybe. Anyway, after that, After that, there were some more rereads. I reread Raw by Cora Carmack, and nope, I'm just going to give you one. On to another big book. I finished To Sleep in a Sea of Stars this month by Christopher Paolini. You can watch the full review from falling on the floor. So yeah, 26 books total, 10 of which were How to Tame Your Dragon.